Hello everyone, welcome to Master Talk. Our guest this week is Marina Testino of the storied Testino family and an art activist in her own right, very passionate about sustainable fashion with really interesting ways of addressing that. Welcome to Master Talks from WeDesign. Our guest this week is Marina Testino. Marina, welcome.
Thank you.
So look, who the hell are you and what do you do?
That's a good question. I don't even know. My dad asked me, what do you do in your life? So I define myself as an artivist.
Artivist?
Yeah,
I like
so mixing art and activism. And I believe art is a universal language, and instead of being completely an activist, using art to raise awareness is a cool, different way to spread the word.
I agree with you, and I think that, I mean, I was being a bit disingenuous. I know exactly what you do. But what's exciting about it is I think you use art to raise awareness, but actually to make things happen. Because I think too often people think that just using art just to do something with no deliverable is enough, and it's not. So I think the activism is the critical part there. So how did you come to be doing this? What's your background?
I studied fashion marketing in Parsons.
In Parsons? Sorry, no favoritism. There are other good schools as well.
But I just I have the background of the fashion industry by studying it, by my parents.
So I believe you've got a very well-known uncle who's a photographer.
Yes. So my uncle is a photographer, and my dad actually represent him for a bunch of years because he founded Our Partner, which is an agency that represents fashion photographers, stylists, makeup artists.
So I think that's where we immediately get onto what's critical in the sustainable fashion context, which is successful business being sustainable. You know, it doesn't really matter, I think, it's not going to change anything if people that are just sort of around on the edges, scrabbling by, are being sustainable. It's lovely, but it's not changing anything. But I think when people with actual influence at the top of the industry or an influencer, that's when we start to change people's minds.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have power and their voice is heard by so many people that just raising awareness and pointing people to the right direction is a crucial thing.
Yeah. So you studied fashion at Parsons. You're a model.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't think I've met a model. I've met lots of models, and never any of them have gone, "Oh yeah, I'm a model." Like they're always like, "Oh, I'm a model."
I mean, I think modeling is more of a very second thing. Like modeling is a thing that gets me money for me to create these campaigns, for me to raise awareness. Like it's something that I live from.
So how did you come about your feelings for sustainable fashion and sustainability in general? I mean, where does that come from?
So my family has been always very conscious, very sustainable. Like 20 years ago, my dad had a house in Tulum that was completely solar paneled. The water was recycled. So I've been born in this mentality.
Right.
And kind of as I was studying fashion marketing, as I was becoming more involved in the industry, I realized that there's no really voice of sustainability in the industry. And it's an industry that's very contaminated. It contaminates a lot. It's a beautiful industry, creative industry, but we can do better. And there's so much things that we can do to improve it. Yeah. And not changing the whole industry, but just like tweaking it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy to look at, research the companies that are trying to make a change, but they don't necessarily have the voice that they need. And I think there are certain people that have a high profile in the industry, like yourself, that can really highlight some of the great things that are going on. Now, I know you've been involved in various campaigns, some of which you've driven for yourself, some of which you work with other people on them. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about some of them.
Actually, my first campaign was after my first full-on fashion week. I had done fashion week before with my uncle. As a
model or as an influencer? Or?
As an influencer.
Right.
And slash model. But I had done fashion week before with my dad, with my uncle, and it's like, okay, I'm going to Paris for one event, and you're so excited and thinking about what you're gonna dress for that event.
Right.
But doing fashion week as a model slash influencer, it's a non-stop, constantly changing clothes. every day, and it's exhausting. It's not fun. It's completely different by what you see on social media, by what people think.
My heart bleeds for you.
And when I did my first fashion week in New York, after that, I was like over changing clothes. I could not see another outfit. I could not change into another thing. Like, I was over it. And I kind of did this campaign that was a personal challenge of wearing a red suit. Every day wearing this red suit. I was like, I don't care what people say. I'm not gonna dress up to go to a meeting with a brand because they wanna see me dressed in their brand. I'm gonna please myself. I'm gonna wear something that's comfortable and do everything in that. So it's kind of a personal challenge. And it became this campaign called One Dress to Impress. And it was wearing this red suit every day for 2 months.
Wow.
And
the same one, or like
the
10
same
versions
one.
of the
No,
same
the
thing?
same one.
The same one.
So the challenge was a month, and 2 days before the month finished, I asked my followers, like, should I continue? Should I stop? Should I do a week? Should I do a month? And 700 people said to continue for a month.
So this is, and I want to stress this because, you know, I meet people that have a passion and they do a project. And then the point that I would always make when I was at Parsons was, if nobody else is paying any attention to you, it's really just a hobby. You know, and it's good. I mean, that's great, but let's not think that's making any difference. But I think when you have attention, when you are influential and you do something like that, then it can cause changes. You know, it can inspire a brand to do something, or a movement of people.
Yeah, I think obviously if I didn't have a following, no one would care if I wear a dress suit, a yellow
I could
thing.
wear a red suit every day, and literally nobody would notice.
But that's also why the reason I started doing these campaigns, because I realized, like, I have a voice, I have a following, and I have an industry that wants to change and doesn't know how to change. So kind of doing these campaigns was to showcase that it can be easy. It doesn't need to be hard. It's not like you can't do this, you can't do this. It's like, look, these are the baby steps. These are the different things you could do. You can change in your daily life to be more sustainable.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the most important things. People see sustainability and think, I can't do it because it's this big thing.
It's too hard.
Yeah. But in fact, every single day you can do a little thing. Like, you just walked in and I said, can I get you a glass of water? Not a bottle, but a glass, because I can wash a glass and then reuse it. It's tiny little things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I gather your dad and your stepmother are very committed to sustainability. Do you think that might be in part due to where your dad grew up?
I think it's a bit of everything.
He grew up in Peru, right?
He grew up in Peru, and obviously it's a third world country. You don't have that much, and it kind of teaches you, like, why overuse stuff, why overconsume, why, like, there's no need. You're perfectly with one thing. You don't need 10,000 things of the same.
One red suit. I mean, that's something that I find in China, because China's advanced enormously in the last 40 years, but before that, it was a very different place. And I think that many people who were around then, they don't really understand why you would want to overconsume in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, my mother's generation, they had never overconsumed. It was wartime austerity.
Yeah.
You know, so it's nice when you've got people that don't have to unlearn how to overconsume.
And also appreciating what you have, because it got to, like the fashion industry, it got to a point that you don't appreciate what you own. Like, I remember in middle school, my parents giving me a pair of shoes and I wouldn't take them off to sleep. You know, like, you would wear them every day and you wanted all your friends to know that you got these new pair of shoes until they break.
Right.
And now it's this idea of overconsumption, of you wear this bag, you post it on Instagram, and it's over. It's not new anymore.
So, but I'm fascinated that because that seems so old now. I mean, everything moves on. It seems the whole concept of that conspicuous consumption and then obsolescence, they're not still doing that, are they? I mean, it just seems like so 5 years ago. And you're an influencer. What are your friends still doing that?
I'm not an influencer.
Okay,
Let's
sorry.
correct that.
You're influential.
I'm influential.
I mean, we're all influencers our own way, aren't we? But
we all influence someone.
Some of us influence
your
a lot,
mom, your dad, someone, the dog. But I think there's still this business model of bloggers or influencers to overconsume and sell product just to sell product, and without any knowledge of what exactly are you selling. Do you actually like it? Are you, is it like I feel we've lost the style of what a blogger is. Like this is my style. It's not, I'm paying you, put this bag, even if, you know, like it's more of like who's getting paid to post what instead of like showcasing your own style.
Yeah.
And it's this constantly overconsumption.
I mean, I have to say that for the people that are influencers that have huge followings, to post a bag and say how much you love it, and then right at the very last bit of the posting it says ad, that's not really making me feel good. Like if it says it at the top, paid partnership with, I'm like, brilliant, I can ignore it immediately because it's obviously just an ad.
Yeah.
So there's still a high degree of disingenuousness about it all.
Yeah, I think like the creativity of the industry is kind of disappearing because at the end of the day, it's how to be creative, how to style things different
all right,
ways.
So that brings us back around to what you do then. So you combine art and activism, and you work with brands, you work with, you try to influence brands. How do you approach that? I mean, knowing that you don't really want people to buy more.
So I try, obviously, like, we're not gonna stop buying. That's not gonna happen. It's a huge industry, and it's a beautiful industry, a creative industry, and a lot of people express themselves how they dress.
Yeah.
And I completely agree, but there is a point of like, how can you wear different outfits every day and be a conscious consumer? You can rent, you can borrow, you can buy secondary market. There's so many options now that it's really promoting the options instead of always buy this, buy this, buy this. You want to wear something different every day? Rent, borrow. Like, we don't need to consume something to post a picture and then that's it. What do we do with that bag that we don't like that the brand send us to do a paid post?
Yeah.
So I try to work with only sustainable brands. It's very difficult because there's not a lot of money in these brands yet. And when I do work with brands that are not sustainable, I try to teach them about sustainability. I try to tell them what they could improve. And also, I'm putting in a new clause in my contracts that when I work with a brand that is not sustainable, a percentage of sales would go to an organization or they would donate something to an organization. So always doing a positive impact with whoever I work with. So yeah.
Well, I think that gives a message as much as whatever the material benefit is, that also sends a message. And I'm a fervent believer in your generation, young people are going to be the ones that are going to drive change from these brands because you're the person they want to sell to. So tell me about some other campaigns you worked on. For a long time you were wearing just yellow.
Yeah, so after the red suit that was called the One Dress Impress, obviously I'm not expecting anyone to wear the same thing forever. So yellow was called Yellow Like a Lemon. And the idea was to showcase alternatives. So how can you be sustainable in the fashion industry? So as I explained before, rental, borrowing, secondary market, and sustainable brands. So
I just want to emphasize for people watching that these are not just personal choices you can make. These are huge business opportunities.
Yeah.
The Real, I think, has got some crazy valuation when it went public, selling secondary market products. So it can happen and it can be huge. Please don't underestimate the potential scale of it. And
it's the growing market right now. Secondary market is one of the, I think 60% of the world, of people in the world buy secondary market.
So, and I'm just fascinated by that statistic that just came out, which was some awful, like 60% of online purchases get returned and 85% of them get landfill. There's a lot of statistics going around that are unverified. But I think if anything that just gets returned is automatically put in landfill, that's a tragedy, especially if there's this huge resale market. And why hasn't someone got an app that can seize that product and then resell it? I don't know.
But a lot of the returning is kind of due to bloggers and influencers because it's this like, I need this thing for this picture, but I'm not gonna buy it. Here's back. Yeah. So we really need to raise awareness of how that affects. You returning something affects the planet so much. And you're doing it every week, every month.
And there's the carbon footprint of the shipping and the packaging,
etc. It's crazy, yeah.
So what that says to me, though, is we have to all learn to use our powers for good. And many people do. Many people clearly do not. Some massive search firms used to have only do good as their tagline, and now they don't. I guess that means you don't have to only do good. Perhaps they'd like to explain that to me.
Yeah.
So you're using your powers for good. You did the yellow. So what was the purpose of the yellow?
So the yellow was just wearing for 2 months. So I launched it during Paris Fashion Week. So it was head to toe yellow. Yellow sustainable brand, secondary market, rented or borrowed. Not easy. But that was the point. If I can do 2 months wearing different yellow outfits, you can do your life wearing black sustainably. Right. You know, like yellow is probably the hardest color, not only to wear, but to combine. Combining different yellows is not easy. I look like a little chicken, like a little, like, it was just like you could spy me from such distance. So it was really, the idea of these campaigns is also shocking, you know, like you see someone wearing yellow, like you want to take a picture, you want to ask them something, or you see someone in a red suit in the metro, just like, you know, like it really is campaigns that are, I'm putting myself out there to raise awareness, so not only
using
social
yourself
media.
as part of the art.
Yeah.
And then there was another campaign you showed me where you basically you were nude in most of the pictures. Tell us about that one. I couldn't look at it, of course, because I'm a gentleman, but do carry on.
So I did this campaign called We See Through, and it was all about microplastics in the ocean. So I had recently learned about microplastics. So for people that don't know, it's tiny pieces of plastic that can come from beauty products, clothing, and just bigger items of plastic. So I recently was aware that 60% of the fashion industry produces synthetic fibers.
Right.
Which means every synthetic fiber that someone is wearing sheds plastic, sheds these microplastics. This
is the stuff that we eat, isn't it?
There's so much of it that goes through the food chain. Yeah. It goes, it ends up in the ocean, the fish eat it, we eat it. Yeah. And it has gotten to this extent that we're breathing microplastics, we're eating microplastics, it's snowing microplastics. Like it's crazy to the extent that this is a problem that no one was aware of. Like I was recently aware of, and I'm trying to be aware of stuff.
Right.
But everyone I would talk to had no idea. Stylists, designers, no one. So I was like, okay, perfect. If when I go into the ocean and I wear a bikini, I'm shedding plastic, I'm going to do a campaign around sustainable bikinis. So people are aware and what can they wear. Then I realized every bikini sheds plastic because sustainable bikinis are made from recycled nylon, which is still synthetic, which still sheds plastic. Yeah. So it was a naked campaign. No, but it was, the idea of that campaign was like, this is an urgent issue. It's affecting everyone. It's no longer like, oh, I live in New York, I have a perfect life. Yeah. It will affect China. It will affect this. No, like you're eating plastic right now. So it was like using shock to raise awareness to such an important issue that everyone's contributing to.
Yeah.
And
So what kind of response do you get to these campaigns?
So a lot of people join. For the red suit, I had a bunch of people send me their outfits that they wanted to do for the month, for the 2 months, for a week. Yellow, I keep getting I have saved the hashtag, so I keep getting people post yellow like a lemon when they wear anything yellow.
Right.
And the naked campaign, Anya Rubrick took part in it. A bunch of different models, influencers took part in it and raised awareness about it. So basically it's getting an issue that people are not really aware of and bringing it to light in a fun way, in a creative way, in a way that is not boring, that you don't need to read this whole article. It's really facts and just how to...
I mean, it's really important that we use any means necessary. We use any platform that we have, and I think it's great to combine art and activism. I mean, like I said, you see people doing it, but I'm not sure what kind of resonance it has. I'm sure people are coming to you now to try and get you to work on their behalf. I mean, and you don't always like it, presumably, because everybody wants to look green, even if they're not.
Yeah, but I also think it's important to have brands try. Like, I think there's a huge problem with criticizing brands that are greenwashing or that are not doing enough. And I completely agree. If you're greenwashing, like, let's criticize them. But there's an extent of what people can do in the amount of time. A brand cannot change from one day to the other. Their business model has to completely change. So we really need to be aware and not criticize so much, because we're scaring brands that want to do stuff and want to change a bit. They don't want to tell you like, oh, we're doing this because we're not doing enough. And I've had that come up in meetings with brands that wanted to work with me and then decided like, you know what, we're not that green. We don't want to work with you. Because if we work with you, we're going to be called greenwashing.
And what do you think is going to be the result of that, though? Because I've got to believe that we're moving towards sustainability. I've got to. Otherwise, what's the point? And if that's the case, these brands that refuse to engage, what's going to happen?
I mean, I think brands that refuse to engage are just going to disappear.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot refuse to engage. It's our planet.
It's happening. Well, but also not only is it your planet, but it's their customer base that's demanding it.
Yeah, and it's no longer a trend. It's like a reality.
Yeah.
And people are becoming more aware, and they won't buy certain things because of how you make them.
Yeah, that's one of the most critical takeaways, I think, from this kind of conversation, which is the reality that your generation can spot certain things and can say, we're not buying that anymore. You can, whatever, if that's your business, then you're our business, because we're not taking it. And people need to be aware of that, because, like you said, you can't step out of this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, this is amazing. So I've got one last question for you, and this is a tough one.
Okay.
So if budget was no problem, what would you like to be pushing right now?
So I keep thinking, like, if I won the lottery, I would just create campaigns to raise awareness of different stuff.
Right. Because if you're watching this and you want to hire Marina, you need to know what she's into right now. So,
but I think my next thing, I really want to push packaging. So I think it's a huge problem, packaging. I'm still trying to investigate what are the solutions, because at the end of the day, I can't be like, oh, you're doing bad packaging. Like, what can we do? So I really want to figure that out. How can we do more sustainable packaging? Because at the end of the day, packaging, it's a 1 second. You throw, you open it and it's gone.
Well, I was talking to a designer the other day, and they were shipping to one of the big department stores here, and the department store rejected their consignment. And they said, why? I said, because you have to individually pack each garment in plastic.
I know, it's crazy.
And they said, but I'll do it in cloth bags and I'll come and pick them up. Nope. Every garment must be in plastic.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's no wonder they're having a tough time.
Yeah.
So plastic's next. I like it.
Well, plastic has already been in the conversation. But I think, plastic is an ongoing one. But I just think like different materials of packaging, like biodegrade, like, that you can just plant it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so nice when
like, why do you need a paper or plastic? Like,
well, when things are minimally packaged, and then you notice they say, put this in the ground and it will grow into a tree or something.
And like,
fantastic. I
got a bracelet and the tree that the packaging came in.
It's a packaging tree.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, listen, Marina, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good luck with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Now join us online and on social media with our experts so we can answer your questions directly and keep this conversation going.